Welcome to This Week in Washington for September the 9th, 2011. There have been a lot of things going on in Washington this week, and I'm sure that many of you saw the President's presentation last night, in which he dealt with both a jobs bill and, more importantly, how to pay for a jobs bill. There are two issues in his discussion last night that are important to us. One, of course, the direct discussion of infrastructure and transportation investments as part of a jobs bill and as part of a long-term growth strategy for the American economy. The second thing that he discussed was the proposed changes he was willing to negotiate with Congress that dealt with Medicare and Medicaid, a subject that is very important to us as well. Today at noon, there will be a conference call with the administration to listen to what their proposals are in more detail about the transportation program aspects of last night's job discussion. We'll be forwarding additional information to you today and in the next several days about what the meaning of this is and how it will impact our proposals for the future and the needed investments in transit we have all agreed need to be made. In the Medicare-Medicaid discussion, there was a proposal to try to rein in the cost of Medicare and Medicaid, something that has been discussed vigorously in the last several months and would appear to reinforce what we've been saying about the potential to make changes in Medicare and Medicaid by following a more demanding managed care model. Outpatient services and managed care remain the only ways that anyone who is an expert in the field seems to believe will actually slow the rate of cost. For us, this is a tremendous challenge because outpatient services, as we have always said, are dependent upon transportation services to be successful. Last week's discussions with CMS and the follow-up discussions we will have in the next week or so will be a good opportunity for us to remind them that without the transportation assistance, there cannot be the savings that they need to make. This is a good time for us to reiterate those arguments, especially as Congress gropes with trying to find additional ways to find revenue for jobs. In other related activities, I'm pleased to announce that later today, we'll be forwarding information to our state delegates for the first time in a kind of state delegate special newsletter. It'll be going out at least every other month and will cover some of the information that we've covered in events like This Week in Washington or some of the more important notes we have developed and sent out about events affecting us directly. It's our hope that this will give the state delegates more timely information to share in their networks with individual members, as well as to provide them a better understanding of how we're trying to fulfill the goals that they and you have been supporting over the last several years. We'll be making sure you get copies of that information as well. As to our next board meeting, I know we've had some discussion about that, and many of you have been concerned about it. We've decided that the next meeting of the board should occur on the 4th and 5th of November, the first weekend in November, and it will be in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Albuquerque, as you know, will be the site of our expo after next year's in Baltimore, and this should give us a good opportunity to take a look at the facilities that we'll be using there, as well as to update you on the current events and how we're dealing with these various legislative proposals. It's my hope by then we'll know more concrete facts about the infrastructure and transportation discussion. On a final note, we received some very good news yesterday evening. As many of you have heard, David Marsh's home and the area in which he lives have been dramatically affected by the recent Austin fires. Yesterday, Dave and his family were finally able to enter the area, and much to their surprise, they learned that their house had been able to escape the flames that surrounded their area. And although their neighbors' homes were lost, Dave and his family were able to return to their home. Since that time, of course, and as you might expect, Dave and his family have been extensively involved in helping their neighbors who were less fortunate than they were in the events surrounding these fires. The fires in Austin, the terrible situation with flooding in our region, and the anniversary of 9/11 remind us that the public and community transportation programs that we represent and support have been very important in the last decade in helping all Americans, regardless of where they live, deal with tragic events and disasters. We're continuing to make that case to Congress as we look forward to the continuing discussions about how we're going to work together to find the kind of investments we need to continue the important work of public and community transportation in the next decade. I'd like to remind you again that we'll be getting back to you with some specific details in these areas as soon as we know more about them. But in the meantime, I think that we should all be prepared to maintain the kind of communications we've had going out to members of Congress in the last several months. Transit is vital and important, and we've seen plenty of additional reminders lately about why that remains the important kind of consideration we need them to consider. Thanks, and that'll be it for right now. We'll be in touch further, and I hope that you have a nice weekend and that the week ahead will be one where we'll be able to bring our information and our concerns further in this political environment. Thanks and best wishes, and talk to you soon. Bye for now.